Texas lawmakers were once again unable to vote on their controversial redistricting plan today. Several Democrats are still out of the state, so the legislature is not able to reach quorum. And now the Texas Speaker of the House is threatening to withhold the pay of those missing Democrats. David Goodman joins us now. He's the Houston bureau chief for the New York Times. Thanks so much for being with us, David. Can you explain exactly where things stand right now? What's the significance of what just happened? And what do you make of that threat to withhold pay?
Well, we've actually seen a week of escalating threats from Republicans in Texas who have grown frustrated that the Democrats, left the state last Sunday, haven't returned, and have made it impossible for them to pass this redrawn congressional map. So it's not so much that they're withholding pay; they're not allowed to do that actually. But what they can do is make it so the legislators can only get their pay if they come to the Capitol, and that's what they don't want to do. These Democrats have vowed to stay out of the state at least through the end of this special session, if not longer, and that would be another, I think, week and a half from here. So what we saw today was, the latest moment in this drama, but it was not the end, and it certainly was, not for lack of trying on the part of Republicans to get these Democrats to come back.
Well, David, some Republicans, as you know, are calling for these lawmakers to be arrested. How long can Democrats realistically really wait this out? I know some have threatened to really stay until the end of the term.
Yeah, I mean, they could do that. They could, in theory, they could stay away as long as they're able to hold their group together. Now, the Republicans don't need all of the Democrats to come back. There are more than 50 that left the state. They just need a handful to make quorum, to make that number that's necessary for holding a meeting of the legislature. And right now they have about 95, 96 people in the State House. That's how many they had today, and they need 100. So if 4 more Democrats figure this is not worth it to them anymore, these threats are too much, they want pay, they're tired of living in Illinois, which is where a lot of them went, then this would all move forward. So the Republicans are trying to make it as unpleasant as possible for the Democrats to stay away, and the Democrats are trying to encourage each other and hold together as long as they can, which may be, as you say, through the end of the special session, and it may be even longer if they can keep it up.
And David, it's not just there in Texas. Democrats like California Governor Gavin Newsom, they're floating redistricting plans of their own. Do you expect more states to follow suit here?
That does seem to be the plan. I mean, actually, ever since the White House and President Trump and his political aides started talking about this, they sort of had a notion that Texas would not be the only Republican state to redistrict. They're looking at other places like Missouri, Indiana, even Florida. And so Democrats have now responded, California being the most prominent example, saying they want to match that effort and not let the Republicans redraw their maps and disadvantage Democrats without responding in kind. It's a little bit more difficult in a place like California because they have an independent commission that makes it so you can't just go in there, the legislators can't, and redraw the map. But Gavin Newsom believes, the governor of California, believes that he might be able to get something on the ballot in November and ask voters there, hey, let's just do this one time if Texas moves ahead with its map. So the California project is triggered in a sense by what happens in Texas. And both are, and that project is actually kind of uncertain at the moment. The one in Texas, as soon as the Democrats come back, that will pass. There's no doubt about that. The one in California still has a lot of hurdles to get over.
All right, David Goodman, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.